All right. Welcome back, everybody. Evidently, I didn't scare too many of you away. Darn. Oh, well. I did tell people over in 204 that if there were extra seats, they could come over, but I don't think there's many extra seats. So that's fantastic. I greatly appreciate you guys coming back. So, all right. So, does everybody now have a working environment? Yes, perfect. I think even I stopped over after I was done here talking to you guys. I went over to 204 to connect with them a little bit, and there were a couple problems over there, but I think they got them resolved, and I think they have a working environment over there as well. So that's fantastic. You guys are doing great. Just a quick heads up. If we do, remember we do need to use the catch box whenever we need to talk so that the people over there can hear us. But now that we've all had a break, please make sure that you keep all beverages in their upright positions because there is technology on the table, and guess what? Apple doesn't cover liquid damage. So, well, they do now with Apple Care Plus. Yes, I understand. But if that's only before June, 8th or whatever that was. So anyway. All right, so now that we have two working virtual machines, we have that Kali box and we've got that Metasploitable, also known as the Swiss cheese of all Linuxes. We are going to do a pen test on these machines. Now, like I mentioned earlier in the session, is we are not going to get into the deep dive of what the exploits do, why they do it, how they do it. We don't have enough time, and nor do I have enough energy or breath to talk about every one of them. There's a ton of them in there. Okay, I will show you in the Metasploit framework or even online, you can actually go through and look and see how the vulnerability, how the payloads actually go through and do their infiltration. So that's all, that could be maybe even for next year if I get enough emails saying do it. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that one. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually take basically our glass Linux installation of Metasploitable, and we're going to throw a big rock at it is what we're going to do. We're going to throw a brick at it, okay? So let's take a look at some slides, and then we're going to go through the actual process. So we're going to talk about the process of pen testing. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to identify the targets. Okay. Has anybody ever done a scan using an Nmap scan of on their network to see what's out there? Okay. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use Armitage. Now, Armitage is basically a GUI for multiple tools. Okay. It uses Nmap. It uses the Metasploit framework, and it uses other tools on the back end. And it's just a it's not a Python. It's a I forget what he wrote it in, what Raphael did it in, but it's just a GUI that helps you do an attack, is what it is, and it uses all these things in the background. So we're going to use, but what it still uses in the background is Nmap to scan your network, okay? And Nmap, we could actually do a whole 75-minute session just on Nmap, okay? Which that could be another one for next year too. But with Nmap, we can actually do TCP scans, we can do UDP scans, and everybody knows what those differences are, right? Okay. I don't want to go into a networking lesson here as far as that goes. We don't have time for that. But the Nmap scan will then, you can get information like operating system, the ports that are open, and so forth. And we're going to use that information we're going to gain that information from the Metasploitable installation to see if there's a SFTP server. We're going to see if there's a SQL server. We're going to see what's available on that machine. But running Nmap on your own network is going to do the same thing. You can see what operating system a machine is running, what ports are open, what services are available. Okay, so that's definitely something you might want to do on a regular basis. So we want to identify the targets. We don't want to necessarily just go willy-nilly and say, oh, let's do everything. No, that's not what we do. We want to make sure we have a defined target and a method to make this happen. Okay? Secondly, we're going to look for vulnerabilities. Now, like I said, for this exercise, we are purely just going to take a brick and throw it at the operating system. Where in actuality, if you were actually doing this as a more organized pen test, you're going to say, okay, this machine is running Microsoft SQL, and we want to see what's vulnerable on that machine. So then we would go into the Metasploit framework and look under the database category, find things that might be vulnerable on that version of SQL, and make it so. Okay? So looking for vulnerabilities on that machine. All right? So we can just run the attack that way. I guess I should just carry my remote around. That way I don't have to. There we go. All right. Then we're going to test the exploits. Okay. Yes, we know that there's some exploits out there, but now we're actually going to run them against the host. All right. That's the third step. Now, does everybody know that there's actually a database out there run by the national government? It's the exploit database. It's the national that keeps all the CVEs organized. So you can search that database and say SQL Server, and it'll list every vulnerability. And then you can take that number, that CVE, and bring it into Metasploit and run that exploit on that machine. So that database is out there. That's an organized database. It's consistent through all of technology. So take a look at that so you can find your vulnerabilities. I'm pretty sure it's the national. Here, let me look it up real quick. What's that one? MITRE is one of them, but I think they just link off the national. Let me look. I don't want to tell you false information or fake news, as it may be. All right, the website is, come on, computer. Just because I have two virtual machines running on you doesn't mean you can't perform at this point. There we go. The website is nvd.nist.gov. I can bring it up later on, but it's nvd.nist.gov. I should have known it was the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Should have known better. All right, so then we're going to run those exploits against those targets. Now, the big thing is, once you have these vulnerabilities, then you have to remediate them. Now, I can honestly speak from experience. The biggest thing in security, especially in your organization, is you can come up with all this evidence to say why you need a security program, why you need to do these scans, why you need to do this training for your users and everything like that. But until you get buy-in from your systems team or your applications team or something like that to actually go back and do something about the exploits, then your job is for nothing. Because then you're just talking to a brick wall, right? And most likely, your organization says, oh, nothing's wrong. We'll take care of it later on. Well, when is that later? When is that later, when all the information from your company's been sent over to overseas? Or maybe you've had all your data encrypted by a ransomware? Is that too late? Of course it is. And then I guarantee you, your C-suite people are going to say, oh, you have all the money in the world to do what you need to get us secure. Security is always second to any other priority in your organization. It always is. And it's a culture shift that has to occur, that we need to make it so that security is the top priority. Because if it's not, you're going to be out of business. Not necessarily completely out of business, but you're going to be down and out if something does happen. All right. So then after that, after remediation, which is fix the vulnerability, guess what? It starts all over. Rinse, lather, repeat. Constantly. You're always doing this. You're in a constant cycle of doing this. Okay? Any questions about the process? Okay. All right. So like I said, don't do any of this right now. We're going to actually go through and we're going to do it on the on the virtual machines. But we're going to use Armitage to actually go through, and we're going to do this testing of what's vulnerable on that box. All right. So by doing so, we're just going to click on the icon, and then it's going to ask us for an IP address. We're just going to use the default for the machine that it's running on. Because in actuality, Armitage is a very powerful tool. Armitage can actually work. Every one of us in this room could actually use Armitage together. We can pass sessions from one person to another. Like say, maybe say this gentleman up here gets into a machine, but maybe somebody back in the back corner has more experience on that architecture. He can actually pass that control to somebody else. So you can share all your sessions amongst in a shared environment. So yes, consider all of us in a room, one big hack team, and you could bring down a whole network together. I mean, it's phenomenal the way that this thing was developed. There's this program was designed by a gentleman called Raphael Mudge. Take a look at his profile online. There's a great video on YouTube from him that describes how he built and what Armitage is really built to do. It's actually a great video. If we actually had extra time, I'd bring it up and let you watch it, but I figured you guys know how to use YouTube. You can watch it yourself. All right, so once we get Armitage up and running, there's going to be three distinct areas that you're going to see in the interface. Upper right-hand corner is the target area. So you're going to see graphical icons of well, not really too much because you only have 2 machines in your network. So, but if you were testing it on a larger network, you're going to see icons describing what's in your environment, from printers to servers to iOS to Windows to whatever it is. They're actually going to identify it because remember, Nmap is doing the network scan in the background. So it's grabbing the platform, it's grabbing the OS, so it knows what's on your network. All right. So that's going to be your work area up there in the upper right-hand side. Okay. Down at the bottom here, this is your tab area, and this is where you're going to get, if you look at the bar, it says like console, services, files, processes. Those are actual connections to machines, and you can just tab between them to take control, do command line operations, whatever it might be. So you can do that down in that area. You can also, if it's a Windows machine, you can actually basically do an RDP, and you can watch what the other person is doing on the other end. You look scared. So yeah, this is when it gets real. This is when it hits home. Over along the upper left-hand side, that's your attack modules. That's the vulnerability database along the right-hand side. Left-hand side. Like I said, we're not going to dive too much into that because we're just basically going to take that whole column and throw it at the other machine, is what we're going to do. We're going to throw everything at it. And what we're going to throw at it is called a Hail Mary. Is what we're going to do. All right? Alrighty. So finding potential threats. So this is what we're going to do once we get into the environment. We're actually going to do a scan, and we'll type in the range of the IP addresses, so we'll do all that in a little bit. And then we're going to learn more about our target. Okay? Tell you what. I'll leave you guys to look at the slides. Let's just bring it up. That's more interesting. Let me get it up here. Does everybody still have their virtual machines up on their screen? All right. All right. So let's go back here. Oh, here's that website. And then we can go up here to the vulnerability search. And let's just type in MySQL. And then there you can see all the CVEs for the MySQL database. Okay. And it tells you the date that it was published and so forth. Okay? So you can search for your software titles that you might be using in your organization right there on that website, and it should list all the known vulnerabilities. All right? Alrighty. So let's go ahead and let's get back logged into our machines. In actuality, the one that we really need is just our Kali for right now. The Metasploitable, yeah, you're going to see something pop up on the screen eventually, but it's not a big deal for right now. So let's make this one a little bit bigger. Okay. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and click on Armitage, which is the little green or blue-haired person. Okay. Watch, I probably now have like 4 of them booting up. Come on. Like I said, it's an older machine. Still does it, just on its own terms. I think I clicked on it too many times is what happened. I might just have to reboot the virtual machine and be done. All right, so once again, if you get your Kali Linux and Armitage to pop up, just make sure you enter the IP address for your local machine. Now, I know some people were using VMware Fusion, so make sure that your IP address is the one that's in your Kali Linux install or instance, rather than what we have, most of us have from using VirtualBox. Well, I mean, whatever you specified your local net to be, because we went through and we set up the DHCP server to be the 192.168. That really wasn't a big, yeah. Okay, so my Kali does not like me right now. All right. For which one? I'm sorry, hold on. The question was for Armitage? So are we connecting to localhost? Yes, you're connecting. When it pops up asking you who you want to connect to, you're entering your own IP address. Correct. For that machine. Remember, if you need to find out the IP address for your Kali Linux box, open up your terminal and then type ifconfig. And you should see your IP address under the ETH0 adapter. Give me a second. My laptop is not liking me a second. Hold on. Yeah, you don't have to. You don't necessarily have to change the port or anything. Oh, go ahead.
It actually should just stay 127.0.0.1. The
Oh,
Metasploit
okay.
server is only listening on the loopback, so it's not going to work if you enter
There you
your
go.
actual IP address.
Thank you. I've done it both ways, so. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second, folks. My Callie's not too happy. I think I overclicked on Armitage and it's not happy. All right, so is anybody having trouble getting Armitage started? Yeah. Okay, hold on, let's get the catch box.
No, I think your entire Mac is frozen. Your clock hasn't changed.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay, who has a question?
So using the loopback address
Yes.
to connect, I got to a point where it says I cannot find the database.yml file.
Correct.
I really need it.
Okay. All right. So the next question is, so what are your options at that point? Does it give you an option?
So I found at that point, if you take the command msfdb space
Yep.
init and put it into the terminal, run it and relaunch it, it'll allow you past that
Correct.
point.
That's the next screen shows you that, I think. Didn't it tell you right there to run that command?
It's at the bottom of the prompt that says there's an error. See
Yes.
the so you see this, and on that message that it pops up, it cannot find the database. Go down to the bottom, the msf command. If you put that in terminal, it'll correct it.
Right. But using procedural language instead of activity language, did you go through all these steps first to discover that, or did you just run to the bottom and do that?
I ran to the bottom and did that.
Well, and I was going to show you that option if my computer wouldn't have locked up on me. So, give me a second. For you guys, no. For me, evidently. All right, let me reboot real quick. Give me a second, folks. My apologies. Evidently, the gods like you guys better than me, so. Is that asking for the IP?
It is.
Yeah. No, do 127.0.0.1. Oh, are you attacking?
When I launched that, that's what popped up. That's asking for the attack.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just hang tight. Okay. My computer didn't like me. All right. Back up. Let's see what we got here. I figured if there's something was going to go wrong, it was going to be in this part of it. So, good thing we have lots of time for this aspect of it.
You want to say anything else?
All right. All right, here we go. My machines are coming back up now. We should be good. Okay. Alrighty. All right, so now let's get into Armitage and let's make sure that we can do this scan. What's that? Oh. Let's just try this. Oh. There we go. All right, so my Metasploitable's back up. Get logged in here. All right. Make sure I know my IP address. Perfect. Come on, Golly. You're holding me up. Perfect. All right. Now we get a desktop. Okay, so click on Armitage one time. Has everybody been successful in getting the Armitage interface up and running? Okay, that's good. That's good. That's where I want everybody to be. All right, so we'll just hit connect here. Okay, up and running. Would you like me to start the Metasploit service? So yes. And then it's going to fail because it needs a database. Of course, that initial database setup is only for the first time. After that, then you don't have to do that again. Unless something would happen to your database that it gets corrupted, then you have to run it again. For those of you that don't have the Armitage interface up, do you still need help? Has your classmates and cohorts helped you? Are you good?
Trying to figure out what the password is.
For Armitage? Yeah. Yeah, it should have been default. But if I'm not mistaken, I think the default is test. So if you got this screen, you go ahead and you run, because since we're using Kali Linux 2.0 users, then we do this.
Hold on. That's what they're catching up to that.
Okay. Okay, so now over here on my terminal, I ran that. So it's creating that MSF and MSF test database. Sure. Mm-hmm. I'll try. Let me make that bigger. Yeah, I could do it that way. No.
Under view. Zoom in. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Maybe one more time. Thank you.
There we go. All right. So as you see now, the database has been created. So now if we rerun Armitage and then hit connect. Yes. Now it should connect this time. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of setup when you start this program. Okay. Could not determine the attack computer IP. So what is it? So you can use your metasploitable address right over here. Okay. But yeah, so you can either use your own or you can use this IP address. It doesn't really matter because we're going to do a scan of the whole network anyway. So it's going to find all the devices on the network. So for me, I'm going to do whatever your other machine is or whatever your IP is. So 192.168.56.101. Okay. So now, remember what was the first step that we had to do? The first step was to identify our targets, correct? Okay. So we're going to do that. So up under the hosts menu, we're going to click on Nmap scan. And we're going to do a quick scan. All right. Now, here's where we're going to do a scan of our subnet or just IP addresses. Now, in here, you can either use CIDR notation if you know CIDR notation. You could just put the single address if you want to. Or you could even put the hyphenated like 10 through 20 notation. So I'm going to do 192. Once again, make sure it's with your network, however yours was configured. If you did the same thing I did up on the screen, then yours should be the same. So 192.168.56.101 through 120. Like I said, we only have two machines. We have our Kali box and we have our Metasploitable box, right? All right, once you get that in there, then you press OK. Perfect. Let's go. So my scan is complete. And just as we suspected, we have one lonesome little machine up in the upper right-hand corner. Okay? So remember, that's your targets area up there in the upper corner. All right. Now, down in the bottom, in the tabs area, now you'll see that you have two tabs down here. The first one, this is the Metasploit Framework console. So once again, like I said in the beginning, Metasploit is mostly a command line interface. So if you feel comfortable and you know how to use Metasploit from the command line, go for it. That's where you do it. Okay? But for us, who are just getting started, we're still going to use the graphical tools as much as possible. Now, if we click on the Nmap scan that we just ran, and we scroll back up, okay, we're going to see this is the actual command that it ran on with Metasploit. So it started the Nmap scan, and here's the report for it. It found one host, which is this one here, and these are all of the ports that are open on that machine. Anything from FTP to Secure Shell, Telnet, Mail, Domain, HTTP, a web server, RPC, 139, which is NetBIOS or AD, 445, 513, so they're all in here. There's MySQL at 3306, PostgreSQL. Oh, look at that. There's even a VNC server on there. So there's lots of stuff open. Like I said, it's Swiss cheese. There's lots of vulnerable ports there that we can take advantage of. And not only that, the versions of the software that are on the machine are also just as vulnerable. So they're either older or they just have holes in them. All right? All right, so now we've got our machine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually go up here again. We're going to select our host. Just by clicking on it, it's going to get that green dotted box around it. And now we're going to go back up to hosts. Now this time we're going to do MSF scan, which is a Metasploit framework scan. Okay? And since I highlighted that box, it's already going to populate the machine in there. Now we're going to click OK. So now what it's doing is it's going through all of the Metasploit framework vulnerabilities, and it's scanning for it to see what we know about the machine. Okay, so let's scroll back up here and see what it found in the scan. All right. Set ports. So what it did is it set the host, and it set the number of threads that it was going to throw at it. Okay, and then it found the ports and listed those. Oops, I didn't want to move the window. Hold on. There we go. All right, and then down here a little bit further. So then it ran modules in the background against that host on all those ports. Okay. Discovery scan. Okay, so it just basically did its own Metasploit scan for vulnerabilities. So that's good. So now we're going to exploit the target. Like, we're just going to throw that big brick wall at it, okay? And this is the crudest, simplest form of an attack that you can do, okay? Like I said, we don't have time to go through all of them, so we're just going to throw that brick through the glass window and see what happens, okay? So now we're going to go up under, we're going to select that machine again, and this time we're going to go to the attacks menu. And we're going to throw that Hail Mary. Make sure you read that. It's very important. There is nothing stealthy about this action. Hey, make sure you tell the owner of that other machine about that. All right. So anyway, let's go ahead and proceed with that attack. So there it's loading all of the exploits from the database into the process list. And it's going to throw the brick. Hang tight. Believe it or not, a lot of these exploits in the database are actually written in Python. So as you can see, if you're not throwing the brick at the glass window, if you knew exactly what you were actually attacking and you could select that payload, this would go a lot faster, okay? But because we're just doing this as a Hail Mary and hoping we find something, which we will, this takes a little bit of time. And now you can see in the Hail Mary box there, now it's actually loading and launching the exploits against that host. And if you watch as the ports go down along the side over here, you can see that it's a web attack, so it's attacking port 80. You can see that right here along the column.
So are you saying that for those admins who may change port numbers with services, probably a fallacy, a feel-good attempt?
Possibly, but at the same time, when you're loading, if you're doing these manually, you can specify a different port number. So then you can attest against the port numbers. But yes, if I'm coming in doing a pen test against your network, I'm probably not going to find it because you're running it on a different port. Although, unless it's a high port number, if it's above what's the high number? 1024? No, I forget what it is. What is it? 50,000? Well, that's the high number, but I'd have to look it up. I forget what the exact port number is. But if you use a very high port number, they're not going to show up in the standard Nmap scan because Nmap's only scanning a certain range. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So we've got some stuff here. And as you can see, we now have a little unhappy Tux up there because he's got lightning bolts coming out of him. That means he's now been exploited. Okay? We found stuff against it. So if we go back in the scroll back here, all right. So right now we have one active session, it says, and it's a shell from a PHP script. Okay? So now you've actually been pwned. You've pwned it, so now we need to take a look and see what we can do to remediate this problem. All right, so if we right-click on it, see now we get some other options. Okay? We can get a shell, and we can now we can interact with that shell. All right, so if I click that, now it's going to open up another tab, and guess what? I am now on that box. Well, it should be. Let me try the other one. If shell number 1 doesn't connect, then try shell 2 if you have one. There we go. So my shell 1 was dead. It died. So I can close that one. My shell 2, this is now on that other machine. Okay? So now I can run, I am now root on that other machine. Okay? I should be.
No, you're running as the web server. Yeah, you're running as the web server.
No, I am root. Oh, okay. My shell 2 was root. So one of you should see which one gives you root. So if you type the command who am I, it should tell you who you are. What's that? It depends on what exploit it used. So the question, yeah. So some of you might see different results. You should actually see all the same, but I've run this many times and I've seen some people get 1, some people get 3, some people get 2. I'm not exactly sure why. I have not been able to reproduce it, to be honest with you. But yeah, it could be some response times. It could be numerous things. So with those different shells, find the one that gives you the root access. Okay. So type who am I. If it says root, you've now escalated yourself on that machine to be the root user. Okay. So now we can actually do lots of things on that other machine. Okay. So if I just as a simple test, so if I do an echo, I pwned you, okay, and then I pipe that to wall. Okay, so wall is just a messaging program that you can use to send messages to other users on that machine. So if I type that and I come back over here, bam, I now send I pwned you to the other machine. Yeah, very interesting. Oops. All right, now I'm going to switch back over to the other computer for a second because I do have a small little video that I want you to see. Yeah, you could wait until you get the slides, but I would rather show it up here. And then we'll switch back. All right. So this is just, like I said, you can do a ton of stuff with this program. But I bring this up because I want you to see this is an example of an advanced post-exploitation example that has been done in Kali. So as you can see, you have a couple devices up there. They're accessing a Windows machine. And that's the hash table for all the passwords on the machine. This time, they're going to log, this is going to take a screenshot of the machine. So there's a screenshot. Now we're going to log the keystroke. So this is the Windows machine. They're going to type, here is some sample text. And then we're going to switch back to Kali here in a second. And then look, lo and behold, there's the keystrokes that were captured using Armitage. Okay? So that's just an example of some of the more advanced things that you can do post-exploitation. Now, the reason I didn't have a Windows machine is because you can't build a vulnerable Windows machine or VM to exploit like this, like you can a Linux machine, not easily. Takes a little bit more work to do that. You know what? Believe it or not, one of the links that I had in my presentation, but I actually removed them after I did this presentation the first time, was you can go onto Microsoft's website and download versions of Windows for development purposes. And it tests, and you have to re-download it, I think, every 90 days or something. I forget exactly the terms. But I downloaded one. I even went back to the earliest operating system that was available on the site, and I put it in the environment. I ran Metasploit against it. Didn't find a darn thing. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So then I just removed it. I said, you know what? We're not doing Windows. I want something that's actually going to produce something rather than having to make a fight with it. All right. So let's see here. All right, so now fixing the exploits. So if you go back into the Hail Mary tab of your Armitage, and if you scroll back, you're going to see the sessions that it found. And you might see things like for VFSTP, and also, I think there's another one in there. It's, what one was it? It should find a bunch of them. Hold on, let me look here. There was a PHP injection. Yeah. So there's different ways to remediate these problems, okay? There are many different things you can do. First thing, what's a way that we can keep our machines secure? The biggest thing, yes, that's exactly right, is patch them. Keep things up to date. That goes for any operating system that you have on your network, whether it be Windows, iOS, macOS, any flavor of Linux that you like, keep them up to date. Because the further they're out of date, you're more likely to be susceptible because there's holes in older software, and those things are being updated and patched as you go along. Okay? Now, the other thing is that you can do is use your firewall and use your either a corporate firewall to keep people out from the outside, or even use the firewall on your local machines to block traffic or to block things to those machines. Like in actuality, you know, if two gentlemen at this table, you know, if you're a web server and you're the application and or the database, okay, does anybody else need to talk to that database server? No. Just that web server that has the application needs to talk to that database. So nobody else needs to be talking to him, just the one server. So block everything else, okay? So that's one way to get around it, is to block the traffic, the unwanted traffic to a machine, all right? So those are the two biggest things you can do to make sure that you can keep your things secure. Block traffic using your firewall, or keep things patched, all right? All right. Now, the shell, let's see here. So the one was, the VSFTP 234 backdoor exploit. And then you should have also had two of them for the user map script exploit. Did you guys see either one of those two pop up in your Metasploit, in your Hail Mary?
I just saw one.
Which one did you see?
The first one.
The VSFTP? Good. Okay. All right. So let's see here. So remediating the SMBD, which is the Samba daemon, that was the user script, okay? The easiest thing to do for this one is to go into the configuration of Samba and make a change so that you block using the user script, okay? Remove the line that says user map, mapping the script. Just turn it off in the configuration. So change the configuration of the application. That's one way to keep things secure. So now we've got change configurations, keep things up to date, as well as using your firewall, right? And then once you restart Samba, you should be able to redo the attack. Remember, rinse, lather, repeat. Rinse, lather, repeat. Do the same thing until you make sure that all your vulnerabilities are secure, right? Until they're resolved, until they're remediated, okay? Now, the other one, the SFTP one, the best thing to do with this one was just to block it at the firewall level using IP tables. All right? If you can. I mean, this all, of course, is application dependent or independent, because it's not everybody's going to be able to block traffic to a machine, because not everybody can do that. All right? So let's see. This version of this piece of software has an evil backdoor in it. And how do we stop it? Block the traffic to it. That's the best thing we can do with that one. So if we went through and on the Metasploit, if we went through and ran the command at the bottom, okay, which is the IP tables -a input, just putting it into the destination port and blocking it. Any new established connections, we're just going to drop them. We're just going to drop them. So that's using your firewall to remediate that problem. Hold on. Can somebody throw the chat box back?
To fix that, you need to know that whole string.
Yes, but there also are, on some Linux distributions, there are GUI interfaces to be able to interact with IP tables. Honestly, there are lots of, there's websites out there that can actually help you build IP table strings to put in your configuration file.
If you type that in terms of what error you found, you can find resources to help you close that, because
yeah,
to be honest with you,
correct.
I have no idea what that said.
Correct. Yeah.
Hi, just on the subject of different Unix distributions, you can't guarantee that you're always going to have IP tables on there.
Correct.
So a lot of work that I've been doing with Linux servers, Ubuntu is now using something called the Universal Firewall, UFW.
Yep.
Red Hat's gone its own way with its own ones. There's about 3 or 4 different competing ones. IP tables kind of going bye-bye.
You know what? There's always a comment out there that one of my professors told me once. He said, you know, the best thing about standards is there's so many to choose from. You know what I mean? And so yes, there are different Linux distributions with different types of firewalls, but once again, Google's your friend. A simple Google statement will allow you to figure out what line you need to type into the configuration or to block that traffic. Any other questions so far? Okay. All right, and there's just what each little command part does. All right. So now, if anybody wanted to, I mean, you're more than welcome to go back and try these remediations, and we can do so if you want to. But once again, rinse, lather, repeat. Rinse, lather, repeat. Okay? You have to do that until you make sure that all of your problems are remediated, and this takes time. It does. Don't think this is something that you're going to fix in a short amount of time, because it does take time. Okay? Run your scans again and just see what happens. All right. I know we've covered a lot of information. We have about 18 minutes to go. Barring all other technical difficulties, I think it was an excellent session. Just as a conclusion, my main idea here is what I wanted you to think about, is think about how you can take this information back to your organizations to, one, make yourselves more secure. Okay? Two, especially on the EDU side, okay, whether it be in K-12, higher ed, whatever it might be, whatever you're into, is think about how you can take this information back to your organizations and come up with either a class, club, or something to spark that interest in these young professionals that are going to be coming up through the ranks that, hey folks, I hate to say it, that are someday going to replace us. So let's get this information in their hands to train them to be the ethical hackers that we need in the industry. Because as I said, we have close to 100,000 jobs that need filling. Well, I had 161 of you here today. So let's see if we can just take a little bit of that knowledge, share it with other people, become a more secure cyber infrastructure, and you know what? We won't have things like Wendy's, Madison Square Gardens, Home Depot, and Target. One of my passions at the university is my student club team. And I don't know if, let me see if I can. Let's see here. I thought I had something here that. Never mind. I'll just describe it. I was going to show you a picture of them. So this team that I formed started back in 2007. Okay, and basically what we did is we took a crack group of guys who basically we locked them in a room and said, you're going to compete on a networking security team in 2 weeks. They came through. They competed in this competition. The first year we won the regional in the Mid-Atlantic. We went to nationals and got second place. Second year in a row, we did the exact same thing. Won the regional, went to nationals, got second place. We've competed in 11 years now, and we've placed first place in the region 7 out of 11 years. And this is purely because there's just a spark that these students want to learn about cybersecurity. At our university, we have 2 classes. We have a networking class and a network security class, and that's it. Everything else, these students are learning self-taught in the trenches, doing this kind of stuff. So it just goes to show, you guys did it in 3 hours. We can do it in no time. We can get these people up to speed and have them learn.
So I am at an independent school.
Yes.
We have a one-to-one program. Every student and faculty member, just to give you some background, is an admin on their own machines.
Okay.
We have in grades, students start getting MacBook Pros in grades 4 through grades 12. In grades 5 through 12, we have had a student leadership program for the past 9 years that have helped guide the program, establish guidelines, rules, so on and so forth. How young have you seen this type of club go in, the K-12 environment?
I would probably concentrate on the 8th grade on up.
Right.
There is a program out there called the Cyber Patriot that basically once you get these students involved, there's training, and then there's a competition for that grade level for the K-12 or for the mostly high schools. But if you get them started in the 8th and then get them started training really heavily for Cyber Patriot in high school, that'll get them really far. and I did mention to a couple people in this room, but also over in the other room, there's an excellent resource online. It's called hackerhighschool. I think it's .org. Fantastic resource. They have curriculum, self-led curriculum out there. For $150 a year, you can gain access to their online labs so that you don't even have to spin up the infrastructure. You give them the PDFs, give them the connections to the virtual infrastructure, bam, done.
What's that called again?
Hacker High School. So that's a great place to start. In actuality, after I'm done here in 2 weeks at our university, I'm doing a week-long cybersecurity institute for high school students. And basically, we're going to go through Hacker High School material for 4 days. I'm bringing in red cell people from different organizations that I've worked with over the years, and they're going to present like a session for the students and maybe do an exercise with them for 4 days. And I'm presenting in the afternoon and the mornings, and then on Friday, Facebook actually has a capture the flag framework that you can spin up your own CFTs on their network, and I'm going to use that as their culminating capstone project for that Friday, all day Friday. They're going to do a CTF.
That's what we used yesterday.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I was really even if I get a couple students involved, but I really thought I was going to get more for that, but I only have 8 enrolled for that week. But you know what? That's 8 minds that are interested and they want to learn. So I'm going to continue to go for it. So those things are really what keeps me going and keeps me passionate about the topic. That's for sure. So I think that covered everything up there. Clubs, organizations. Oh, for you guys, if you want more information and how to go further, especially with your training for being a certified ethical hacker and stuff, look at the certified ethical hacking training. There's a lot of stuff on that website. SANS has some great coursework, although it's expensive. Unfortunately, for the professional side, it's pricey to get involved in cybersecurity, but it can definitely be well worth it. I think I heard somebody mention Pluralsight. There's excellent stuff on there. Cybrary, CYBRARY.IT. Excellent videos on there, and they're free. Excellent stuff on there. And there's even courses on there that go into simple networking that talk about IP, UDP, TCP, all that stuff. So some great stuff on there to get you up and started. Other than that, we have about 10 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions at all?
Oh, wait.
Hold on.
Wait.
We gotta wait for the chat box.
Can't
catch
talk
box.
without this. Not possible.
Would you be able to show us how to do the keylogger? I know there was a video, but if it's possible with our current setup.
Unfortunately, not really.
Okay.
Not the way I had that deployed.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
There are videos out there, and maybe I can even look them up and put them in the slides toward the end.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
That last resource, I think you said it was Cybrary. How did it?
Cybrary, CYBRARY.
Thank you.
.IT. I think there was a question along the left-hand side over there.
So if we wanted to do, our company has a standard Mac image that gets built with Deploy Studio. I know that's old school, but anyway. So if we wanted to apply this technique to it to test it, what would be the best way to do that to keep from ruining the rest of the network and everything else?
Just put it on your own local little switch. Build a own little lab in your office or your whatever your workroom is, and
So
just do it that way first.
Set up the Armitage part just like we did here.
Yep. But instead of doing it local to host only, bridge it to the network, and then you can do it to every other device.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. If there's any questions in 204, feel free to stop over after we're concluded, and we'll go from there.
I'm looking on the scan results, and where it says, the number of exploits discovered. Is it are all those exploits is the list that comes underneath it?
So anything that says a session number. So if it says session 1, session 2, session 3, those are the exploits that actually have active vulnerabilities that you can use.
So if I didn't see, because mine says those command shell sessions, are open, but it didn't have any of the other ones in there.
Like I said, I've seen it where some actually show up and some of them do not. Like mine up here, when I ran it, it didn't come up with the VSFTP one. When any other time on my other machine, I ran it 10 million times in preparation, and it found it every time. So, and honestly, I'm not sure why. I wish I could honestly tell you. I heard somebody say that it could just be response times from the server. I'm not sure.
Oh, so it's one of those do it again things.
Yeah, exactly. If you ran it again, you might get different results.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Folks, thank you very much. And if you have any other questions, I'll be available throughout the remaining of the session or the remainder of the conference. And please, 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 make sure you send me some feedback. I appreciate you not throwing tomatoes here today, but you can throw tomatoes virtually at me online, okay? What's that? Buy an SSD? Yeah. Tell my university. I need a new laptop is what I need. Thanks, guys.